The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
To Triversity Talk on Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. So happy to have you here with me. I've had such a crazy week. I cannot even tell you because of the hurricane in Florida. I am a victim of the hurricane in Florida. Now, you all know that I broadcast from New York, but my guest this afternoon was in Florida. They were boarding up the windows while she was on the live stream. And tonight, my producer's in Florida. And as he likes to say, they are hunkered down, all right? They've got winds, they're losing power. It's just crazy. So any thoughts that I had about moving to Florida have just been squelched by, I think this is Hurricane Nicole. Anyway, if you are in New York City and you are listening, this Friday night at Pangea, we are celebrating the amazing singer, Kobe Cole, and the show starts at 9:30. Love if you could join us. Stop on by. It will be an amazing show, and it will go on and on and on because he's so incredible and everyone just loves him. So that's Friday night at 9:30. And then on Sunday, I am in a show called Latin Explosion. That's right. And you're probably thinking, oh my God, what could she be doing? Well, I'm not going to tell you, but let's just say that it's got a little bit to do with Shakira. And the show is being produced by the Imperial Court of New York. And it's to benefit Sylvia's Place as well as homeless youth centers. Oh boy, that's a mouthful. Everything the Imperial Court does is philanthropic. We raise money for other organizations. It will be at Industry Bar on 52nd Street in New York City. So if you're listening and you're here, stop by and say hi. I would love to see you. Oh, and I sell raffle tickets at the Triversity events, which, speaking of, December 3rd here in Milford, Pennsylvania at the Pocono Environmental Center, we are having our holiday gala. It will be fabulous with wonderful prizes that you can win at the raffle. And your ticket will get you a delicious meal and an open bar. And we all know how much we love open bars in the holiday season. So I think, my God, I had a lot to tell you tonight. We all survived the midterm elections. We're here. We're still standing. Do any of us know what's going to happen in the world? No, we don't, do we? But you know what? We all live on the edge these days anyway. So speaking of living on the edge, my guest tonight, I first met 3 years ago. I gave a huge event called My Birthday Extravaganza. And in walked this dashingly handsome man with the biggest bouquet of flowers I've ever seen. And I was, of course, immediately impressed because you show a girl a big bouquet of flowers, she's going to go crazy. Absolutely gorgeous. And he had the personality to go with it. The thing about him is, fast forward to now, right? Because we've all been doing so much to keep ourselves out there as entertainers during the pandemic. He came out with his own variety show, which is opening November 16th. Okay, the variety show includes disco, drag, burlesque, and dance. And I say, because he does it all. And I say, meet David Drumgold, the man of many hats.
Hi, honey. How are you, Miss Wendy? Thank you so much for having me.
You know what? It's always great to see you, and it was wonderful seeing you at my husband's birthday party.
I know, and he was the fan rather than the guest of honor, taking everybody's picture and having everybody sing for him.
Yeah, he
He's a
likes
living doll.
doing that, right? He
Yeah.
totally likes doing that. But how could I be so lucky to be seeing you so much?
I feel lucky. My goodness, your energy alone. People tell me that I have a lot of energy. You have the energy of 2,000 sprites working to bring spring. Thank you.
Well,
Thank
you
you.
know what they say
Such
about me?
appreciation
I
to be
could
appreciated.
burn out an entire crowd. David, so I want to talk
We're always the
first.
first and the last.
There you go.
We're the
So
first and the last and always laughing.
before you freeze on me again, I want to talk about your show, how it came about,
Okay.
what made you decide to do it, and tell me everything that's going on with the show.
Okay. It's the 4th anniversary, so we've been doing it since 2018. We built it as the 3rd anniversary, not realizing that we didn't count the year of COVID that we had off. And my childhood,
the year doesn't matter. I want to forget. La 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 la.
my childhood goddess was Carol Burnett. I would watch that show and be in homeroom on Monday because she was on Fridays and Saturdays, mostly at 10 o'clock. And I want that for this generation. It made me understand the history of music, the history of vaudeville, the history of entertainment. And I wanted to be able to show that to people so they have something to look back on and see where things originated from. Right. And I ended up with a ballet dancer, an opera singer, and various other modern dancers, disco singers, burlesque performers, drag artists. I'm going to have actually a poet, my improv teacher, Robert Galinsky. Do you know Robert?
I know the name.
Okay, he's going to come and do a piece. Linda Clifford from Red Light from Fame. She's flying in just for the night to do the show because I met and fell in love with her. And I was like, this is what I want to bring back. And just showing entertainment. It doesn't have to be a competition. It's all about the differences and the beauty in those differences.
Well, first of all, let me just tell you, I love that you're doing this, and not because I think you're amazing. I love that you're doing this because the art of the variety show has really been lost. Everything is so darn packaged now. And what started to happen during the pandemic, we were all doing these variety shows on Zoom. That's what they called them. And they were on Zoom. It's nowhere near as polished as a live performance like you're doing, but it incorporated the kinds of acts you're talking about. Yeah. And I wonder for so many entertainers, if the pandemic did not spring people forward to this kind of thinking that you're doing.
Completely. The amount of people that were doing work at home and doing Zoom shows or getting together with their dancers in shows that closed, and we're doing all these wonderful things. The amount of content that was created during COVID was shocking, even to me. People were sending me things on Zoom. People were sending me things on Instagram and Facebook, full brand new performances, readings of things they did, readings of scripts of friends, things they hope to raise money for. Out of darkness always comes the beauty and light of creativity. That's how we write ourselves.
I love that. I love that you said that. And of course, I'm in the same court as you are with that. Right. Out of the darkness comes the light. And yeah, you're right. The amount of production now that's going.
I didn't hear you cut out a bit.
It was no surprise to me when you told me you were doing a variety show. Absolutely no surprise. Right. Tell me about your connection with Carol Burnett. You told me that you love her, but did that start as a kid? Because for me, it started as a kid.
It started as a kid, and I am a very, very lucky, fortunate human being. Praise God, knock on wood. I ended up catering an event for her when she was doing Moon Over Buffalo. I had the entire run of the series doing their lunches.
Oh my God.
So I had the good fortune to meet her, let her know the love that she gave and the pilot light she was for me to trust my own humor and creativity. And she couldn't have been more darling. She hugged me. She gave me a kiss on the forehead and held my hand while we were talking. I thought, that's all I need. You know, you are lovely, and you are as lovely as I thought you would be and hoped you would be, and encouraging. Really great lady. I would love for this to become a special and then a series because I want her on. Because she's the last.
Oh my God. I love that that's your goal with this. Yeah. But, there's a number of things that you just said. You were working a different job. You weren't doing entertainment. And you
I was before.
Right.
I did a lot of films in the late 80s and early 90s.
Right.
and that, that security of parents telling you got to make sure that you have your roof over your head. And I
Same.
opened my own catering an event production company, and suddenly, that was 2005, and suddenly it was 2018, and it was running itself. And it's like,
Right.
well, I already own this company. What do I do to feed my core? You know what I mean? To get
What a great position to be in.
always have been a team player. Yeah. I'm lucky I can produce myself. I'm very, very fortunate.
You are very, very fortunate. And you know what? You're smart, because you also understood your parents raised you right. And I go back to this. You form your company. Service. It's called Tada Service.
Tada Service. Yes.
Good. I wanted,
which actually means tada tip. Because selfie is a gratuity in France. So it's tada tip.
I love that. Oh my God.
But it's a lot of fun. And because I'm lucky that I came from catering in Europe, I mean, I actually worked for a very short time, but a really lovely time at Buckingham Palace. So once that's on your resume, you get seen by everybody. I came here and immediately worked for Glorious Foods. And then they would fly us to do parties in Kentucky. We did the Kentucky Derby. Oprah hired us, and we flew to North Carolina to do Maya Angelou's 65th birthday party. And because of my past, I was always put on the premier table. So you got to meet all these people and see these beautiful homes and this wonderful art, and just see them as human beings that you can do the same thing. They're not so removed from you just by the economics or the money. They're the same people. They want love. They want to laugh. They want to feel love. They want to feel romance. And I don't mean just, a loving relationship with a partner, but just make it beautiful your days. Make your, having a glass of water and a fine piece of crystal is just simple for yourself.
Oh my God. I love that you're saying this. When I've been in these situations, there are people though that are very intimidated by those situations. I can tell you. Yes. I am very much the same as you. It's like, oh, look at this wonderful crystal that I'm drinking the water out of in the fabulous house that's not mine. Okay?
That's not mine.
The dishes and the gorgeous silverware isn't mine either. And isn't it just an extraordinary experience?
It's wonderful. And it stops feeling so removed for you, because so often you see pictures of all these fantastic parties and all these, notorious people for fame, for money, talent, business, or whatever. And then you meet them and you see them trip up a staircase. You see them knock over a glass. You see them pull themselves together. They're no different than you or I. And my business is to make them feel comfortable, and not make them feel like they're being peered at like they're in a zoo. It's like, all I need to know is that the gas is connected to the stove and the hot water works. After that, we're having a party,
Right. And I'm sure, though, David, a lot of the success of your events has got to do with your personality.
I'm a bit of a cheerleader. That's true.
Yeah, just a bit of a cheerleader.
Just a bit.
Just rah-rah-rah, sis boom ba on you.
Well, that's the crazy thing. I looked at all these photographs when I was at home, because my mother passed last year.
I'm sorry.
And there's all these pictures of me bringing people 2 glasses of water or a tray or 2 pieces of cake with a fork. And I've been doing it all my life, making sure people had a good time and felt comfortable in my presence. So I guess I could feel comfortable in theirs, really.
So it's your personality. Now, you were born in Iowa, but you grew up in DC.
I was born in Iowa, grew up in DC, but was very, very fortunate that, for as cultural as DC is, with the government and the arts and Smithsonian, I was very involved with that during my school year. But I had kind of a Huck Finn summer, which was great balance to be lost in nature, go fishing on lakes, go fishing on the Mississippi River.
Oh, so you did all of that kind of stuff in the summer. That was your balance.
Yeah, I had a really great balance for the two. And I thank my mother for that. Her family was from Mississippi and moved north up the Mississippi River to Iowa. So I was able to really, I never went hunting, but I knew that my grandfather did hunt. And there were things that I ate. I will not, but I will try everything once.
What, did you eat possum? Did you eat possum? I know people from places like.
I did not eat possum. Right, but that's further south and the central southeast.
Yeah.
Whereas Mississippi, when you come up north, you have raccoon, you have squirrel, you have rabbit,
Oh no, David,
I
I
had
have two pet rabbits. No, Le Pen. Isn't that
and I don't eat it anymore. I don't eat it anymore, but I did try it once.
Pepper? Le Pen, please.
I've eaten everything. I even had rattlesnake.
I have actually had rattlesnake, and let's share it with our audience. It tastes just like chicken. Doesn't everybody say it tastes like chicken?
All tastes like chicken, just a little slicker.
Right.
Yeah, it's slick on the tongue.
It's just a little slicker. So, you had what sounds like an idyllic childhood. A really idyllic childhood.
We're stuck again.
It's okay.
Yeah, it was great. It truly was. The Saturday Evening Post covers by Norman Rockwell, all of that. I had a great beauty and a romance. But you're coming to the show Wednesday, right?
No, I'm coming to the after show.
Oh, you're coming to the after party? Okay. Because there's a photograph that has been in my life. I wish that I had it to bring up now, by Avedance in the south of France, of Sonny Hartnett. And I don't know why, but that photograph followed me throughout my life. And it was the reason why when I came back to the States, I was able to turn myself into that character. And that's how I got into the film To Wong Foo. And it gave me my Screen Actors Guild card.
Wow. And I was going to ask you about that. I first heard about that film because my best friend, the drag artist, Sweetie, NYC, was
May
in
she
that
rest in
film.
peace.
Well, yeah, may she rest in peace. She was a keeper, and I'm sure somebody that you
and
were
a sweetheart. We have I have some great stories on Sweetie, and it was interesting because that year, for some reason, redheads were really popular. And if you notice on the opening scene at Webster Hall, there's so many people in redheaded wigs. I mean, RuPaul's was was blonde, but nearly 7 or 8 of us were all in red wigs. Coco Peru.
Yeah.
Oh God, I hate now that I can't recall names. Getting older. So many people. If you look at the opening of To Wong Foo, so many people had redheads. So when we all walked in, John Leguizamo was like, "Oh my God, all these redheads in here!" And Sweetie walked around the corner, and he said it reminded him of a redhead cowardly lion. So it became the joke where they would just go arr, arr, to each other. Arr. What
an incredible memory to have. I remember when Sweetie did the film, I thought the name of the film was so bizarre. I could never remember it. Like, I can't remember now. How did the name of that film fit into the film?
Douglas Carter Bean wrote this screenplay, and he actually wrote it before Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Even though while we were filming, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert came out. So basically what it's meant to be is a photograph of Julie Newmar in the Chinese restaurant. And she wrote To Wong Foo, comma, like opening a letter.
Okay.
Thanks for everything, comma, Julie Newmar. So it's like an autographed photograph.
I love it. This is why you're on the show, David, so that you can fill in this blank for me that makes me wake up at 3:00 in the morning. So that is the title of the movie. Right. Now, RuPaul.
So it's basically the autograph. It's the autograph from Julie Newmar.
Right. So RuPaul had reached the levels that she's on now when you did that movie.
Well, very, very close to it. It was before this superstardom, which she has worked hard and deserves, because it's a language and identity that should never be exhausted. It's sad in this country that we don't have a great love theatrically, because, you know, pantomime, all of the great witches, all of the great stepsisters, all of that, were always played by men. Right. And we in this country, unfortunately, we associate a sexuality with drag rather than being just a real great theater form, you know, and that's just another reason for people.
I so totally agree with you on that. It is drag is a performance art. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I saw John Hurt play one of the ugly stepsisters in Cinderella in the 80s, you know, and I love that Ru has done that, and it's made it across the board more understood and accepted.
Right. Well, okay. So because you spent a long time in England, you know this, that in theater, especially in the history of theater there, males and females had interchangeable parts.
Very often. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like we have swings on Broadway, you would be in a wig, out of a wig, lipstick on, lipstick off, smeared frames to dust, you know, something on, or a beauty mark or what have you. And you were in and out, and you just had a ball. You were able to go through your entire kaleidoscope of emotions, identities, and get in touch with yourself. It was really fun.
I love it. I love the way you throw all those words together. You make it sound really easy, in a wig, out of a wig, smeared lipstick, unsmeared, and then you would get in touch with yourself.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I did the Edinburgh Festival, I had no one. I didn't have anyone backstage. I had nothing. I had a mirror and a candle so there wouldn't be too much light coming from behind the stage, and a chair, and literally a desk that was maybe 2 feet by 1.5 feet, and wigs were on coat racks, and I did a 4-character show and got nominated for a Perrier Award, and I was really well reviewed in the Scotsman. And I thought, God, you're telling me that I'm self-belief. I appreciate your breath as an audience to get the fact that I'm doing this,
To really appreciate it. How amazing. So part of your time then in the UK was spent going to Edinburgh. I'm familiar with the Fringe Festival there.
Right. That's it. That was it.
Yeah. And that is so incredible. And you did characters. Wow.
It's amazing. And like Broadway, they started having different nights off that different people didn't have shows. So you were able to run around and see different shows. And I was lucky. My show was at 7:00. So I was able to go and see things like Wednesday, 7:00. I was out of the theater by 8:15, 8:30, because it was just, baby oil or whatever to get all the makeup off and wash and get out. And I got to see so many different shows. I got to see comedians. I got to see bands. I got to see musicals. And then like 2 or 3 bars is where you're invited to as an artist in the festival to meet different people, and you meet all these people from all over the world. I ended up narrating one thing for another guy, and another person kept in contact with me too. He just liked the shape of my hands, which I thought was odd, but he used it for a plaster mold. And when you're in that, it stops being precious. It stops being the money and what I'm going to wear on the red carpet. It's much more about, let's tell the story, and how will we tell the story?
Well, I've always got the feeling that the Fringe Festival, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, was really about the creativity, the art of creation. It
was like kindergarten. It was like kindergarten. You had no boundaries. You had no agents. You weren't talking about money. You weren't talking about contracts. All of that had been done before you got there. So you were nothing but an open sponge, just absorbing all the joy and the goodness of it all.
Love it.
Really
now,
lovely.
What brought you to London first? You were studying there, yeah?
Yes. Costume history and fashion design. That was my initial thing. My voice has always attracted people. So I ended up singing with a band, got involved with a band we were called 11. It was two ex-members of the band The Undertones. I'm sure you've heard of Fergal Sharkey. He was,
of course, I've heard of Chris Rael. You've also worked with Chris
I toured with Chris Rea. I was toured with, did open for Thomas Dolby and toured with Chris Rea. Thomas Dolby and we had the same management team. So that was a lot of fun to get to see him and meet Bowie for the first time at Live Aid. We were backstage. I had missed my flight back home. So I was able to be backstage at Live Aid in the middle of this like green room that was just everybody coming and going. So very fortunate.
Right.
And it wasn't ambition, it was luck and being able to shine more than
what, David? It's throwing yourself against the wall, which you did. And your expectations, I get the feeling from you, you just give 100%. Yep. You don't have expectations. You're in the moment of what it is that you're doing. When you do that, that's why you have the best experiences.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. Glorious places, performing in, Guildhall and places with these, hundreds and hundreds of year old paintings and gilt and, what do you call it? Velvet. But then also going to a 400 thatched cottage in Bath. Where the Roman,
Bath, of course,
and aqueducts are still there, and feeling just as romantic because you're in the middle of history.
Right.
You're freezing, but you're in the middle of history and it's just gorgeous.
Who cares? You're in the middle of history.
Right. You can barely get the lines like the damp stone, but it was beautiful. I was there at the perfect time. It was before cell phones, before computers. So it's still, even though it's virtually the same language, you really did feel, as a foreigner, you felt abroad. You learned different things. I learned English as a language, even more so, just because the vocabulary became broader and different words used for everything. But it was I wouldn't trade it for the world. Wouldn't trade it for the world.
What a rich experience that you can bring to everything that you're doing, really. I want to look at your reel that you sent in.
Oh, okay. All right.
Let's take a look at that.
Now this is all Christmas. Oh no, Christmas Freak isn't on there, but Christmas Freak is on Apple, written and directed by who is an absolute doll and a great man who's working on a new film now. He wants like Octavia Spencer or someone. So put a word out there, Miss Spencer, if you want to produce and star in something fantastic. But this is
I love her.
Crossers, which is a film about a rehab center where I play the doctor. And what is the other one? Oh, a video of a audition that I did. And a film called Nick and Nicky, which is a kick throwback to comedies. You'll see, I play the salesman at Tiffany's.
Oh, I love it. What a range. Okay. It's showtime.
Ta-da.
And so, he never gets the Dorito.
No, you don't do that to a person.
What if we burn the guy? Classic.
Stop. Before we go on, I need to know if anyone has anything that can harm me. Knives, needles, stabby things, anxiety, depression, hallucinations, violent behavior, suicidal thoughts, and insomnia. Jesus Christ, if this wasn't my bar, I'd be heading for... What do you feel is the value of life? Welcome. Please. For those in the group who have not met our new guest, allow me to introduce you to Mr. Fields. And I see the bride already has her engagement ring. Well, I'm not supposed to, but I have two exquisite diamond rings that are on reserve for two high-profile, closeted gay men. I'm not allowed to say who they are, but can you say ex-mayor? And I'm telling you now, you're not cut out for that way of life. Trust me on that. You're not. You've got a shot. Run a legit business with me and make this hotel fly. And live a noble life, never owing anybody anything. And never having to look over your shoulder either.
David, wow. First of all, I love, sometimes actors submit reels and you're just like, you can't get past the first thing. I love your reel. And I'm going to tell you why. As a performer, you are a range of characters. You not only showed that in the reel, it was extremely entertaining. If I were a casting director and that came in, I would completely watch the whole thing because after everyone, I wanted to see what you were going to do next. I'm like, what is this person going to do next? What fabulous. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely.
You worry about that. You wonder if it's too much. You wonder if it's enough.
Listen, this is something, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You have to be you. I've been booking a lot of stuff lately because they're looking for comedic, improvisational Jennifer Coolidge types. Okay.
Right.
So now I have a brand new category that I was never in before. And all of a sudden, the too much has become enough. Yeah. And it's become okay. So as a performer, and you know this, you have to be secure in who you are and what you can bring to the party.
Yeah.
I love the range of characters in there. Because what it says, if someone is casting, it says, I can play extreme, I can do drag, I can be extremely serious. It shows who you are.
Thank you so much.
Well,
really, to be honest, it's much more comfortable because in the 80s and 90s and, possibly before, but I wasn't that time pursuing the career. You felt that you had to be a specific thing to be salable. Whereas there's so much diversity. There's so much diversity that a Pearl can be next to a sapphire, and it
Yeah.
still works. And it's my time, and thank God I lived long enough to see it.
Oh
And
God. Yes. Hallelujah.
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 All that wasn't guaranteed, that's for sure.
Well,
But
we're
it's
all,
really
we're all
good.
still here. That's how I look at it. And you
Look
brought up,
who's here.
they wanted to put people in categories.
Yeah.
Don't you remember? Because I've been doing this as long as you have. Don't you remember they used to tell you if you wanted to have a legitimate acting career, you couldn't do commercials. You
Yep.
couldn't do commercials.
You had to do one or the other. You had to choose theater, film, or television.
Right. And if you were like on a soap, that's where you were going to be the rest of your
life.
That's how it used to be. And
Yep.
it is completely not like that now.
But I'll also tell you another thing that happened that was interesting for me. My first film was To Wong Fu, and I got my Screen Actors Guild card, and various extras, casting directors would say, your name is already on a film, don't do any extra work. And I was like, well, I don't know. I have no problem performing, but I didn't know a set. So I would have wanted to have had more experience on a set just to pay attention when the focus isn't on me performing. So I missed having that and had to learn as I went, which I did do, but I would have liked to have had a year of being an extra or 2 years of being an extra.
Having done initially when I started in this business doing extra work, right? That's how we get started. And then I got graded. That's how I got my SAG card. But honest to God, I don't believe that at all. I believe if a person is talented, they put you on that Tu Wong Fu set and you did your performance. You did what you were there to do, about things about getting your mark, or, that's why you have directors. That's why you have the assistant director. And that's why we do run-throughs, so that we do it. So when we're filming, it's perfect.
But, it's a little different now. And I was shocked. The last two things I did, there wasn't even a table read. Literally.
No, I know. We're cranking them out now.
I'm like, how acting is reacting, even though I have an identity of what my character is.
Right.
I need to know what I'm responding to and where this other person is coming from. And often you don't hear that until you're on the set in front of the cameras, ready to go. No table read. You never hear the other actor. I was like,
absolutely.
Whoa.
So you got to make it up in front of your head. It's like me, like people say to me, I could interview a stick. And it's true. And I started out in home shopping where they would give me buyers. Okay. But like dead guests. And they would be no like normal time with that. It would be midnight. And they would put the dead guest on. And I would have to talk to them about shoes when I wanted. Yes.
And they're ridiculously self-conscious because that's not their world.
They hated every minute rate. So it was good training for me for that. Oh, and the producer would run over and say, you need to have more energy. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't have any energy. And the guest got in that chair a long time ago. But
like you got a little bag of pom-poms going, here, catch. Match my level.
Going along with what you just said, it trained me for not having the table read, walking onto a set and having, before I do it, knowing the script, I have to make up every single attribute about that person. I write a little script in my head for them.
Yeah.
And you got to react.
You do. I do that, but I like to hear what I haven't had on the last two projects was a chance to hear the people I was sharing scene with, to know what they were performing. Because you want to be, you want to respond, and you also want to support their energy.
Yeah.
It's not the David Drumgold show. It's the David Drumgold show with myself. But I want to make sure that they're supported, especially if they're the lead, so I know what their history is, so I know what my response to them is.
You want the backstory of the person that you're in the scene with. I got it.
Am I being empathetic, or are they, my number one enemy? That kind of thing.
Right. Well, I guess that's what they say when they tell us now we have to make the choices right away. And you just have to go, what do we say? Go with your gut feeling. You don't have a choice.
And if it's wrong, they can say cut and reshoot it.
Right. Absolutely.
Go with your gut feeling and give them everything. A lot of directors are kind enough to let you improv, or so that they have more to work with in the editing, let you try it different ways so that your response comes across that could be a turning point for that scene, for that paragraph, for that situation, because it could be a turning point for the character. It's an initial first thought for that character thinking of you or their mom or whatever, whatever the scene is clarifying.
But if
That's
you don't
good.
get to
But I
do
love
it that
America.
different way, they won't always know it. That's why I say I often ask, can I try it a different way? Can
Yeah.
you give me an adjustment? And
Yeah.
they always react positive to that. They're like,
Yep.
oh, yeah, sure, why
Because you're
not?
making an effort. Whereas when I was younger, I was a mouse. As big as my personality is, I was a
Yeah.
mouse on the set because I didn't want to be a nuisance. I didn't want to pull attention to myself. I wouldn't ask anything, and I realized that hurt me because people didn't know what a wealth was here to make it all lovely. Whereas now I'm like, can we try this way, or did you mean this emphasis on this word? Does that bring it better for you, or that word? And people love you then because they realize you're there for the the craft or whatever you want to
You're
call
there
it.
for the craft, and you're also thinking about the work. Now, you
Right.
do stand-up comedy also?
Yes, I did. I want to get back into it. More storytelling, but yes, stand-up comedy.
Yeah. Did you enjoy doing stand-up? What was that
I
like?
loved it. I
You loved
loved
it.
it. I loved making people laugh. I loved making them think. I loved the diverse things that people would say to me afterwards because it would, it inspires things that people never, haven't thought about or they've, pushed under the rug for themselves. I remember the Edinburgh Festival. This woman came up to me, and I think that night didn't even have 13 people in the audience. Okay.
Wow.
She came up to me and she put her head on my shoulder here and she goes, "You made me think of something from my childhood, and I was able to forgive my mother and laugh. And I'm gonna go to her grave this weekend and put flowers on it because you made me understand her perspective purely in comedy.
Wow.
It made her understand where her mother may have been coming from, and it had nothing to do with her." I was
But
like, wow, you don't know what you're doing by relating.
for a performer to be able to do that and to
But
have
it's
something, you weren't even trying to do that. You see, you never know.
you
just
never know what nerve you touch, and if it's coming from a place of truth or light, whatever you want to call it, it touches. It gets
Right.
people.
Right.
Gets
How
people.
much of your upbringing do you think has got to do with your stand-up comedy and the fact that
Oh,
you're a real go for it kind of guy? You definitely, if someone hands you a lemon, you'll make lemonade out of
oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
and then
yeah.
you'll add extra sugar to the lemonade.
Extra sugar
Okay,
to the
and by the
lemonade,
way,
and
what would you like to go with the lemonade? So
right.
how did you become that kind of person?
My mother was a very yes and natural person. She was improvisational.
Ah,
Um, she did really exemplary things, and I don't even think she thought that she was doing it. She would say she came across a 50-pound bag of potatoes. Everyone in the building got 5 to 10 potatoes because we
I
didn't
love
need a 50-pound bag of potatoes.
right.
My mother would talk to everybody. People think that I talk to everyone. My mother would talk to everyone and then discuss them, and not in a disparaging way like gossip, just in a fascinating way when we got home. She was yes and to anything. Whenever I told her I want to take you to Europe or I want to take you to Hawaii, I want to go, she goes, "I've got my toothbrush and my passport,
I
baby,
love
let's go." She was
Right.
ready for everything. And
Love
just
it.
and very unlimited. I love that about her, especially for a single woman. She was a
So,
single parent.
so your father wasn't in the picture. He had passed.
No, he was alive. They separated when I was 4. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
And divorced when I was 10. So he was in my life maybe 4 weeks a year, every year.
It's not a lot of time.
Uh,
Your mother raised you.
my
Kudos
mom
to
raised
your
me.
mama. She raised you, and she raised you well, and she sounds like she raised you by herself.
She did. She did,
Strong
and most
women.
of her sisters did. She was one of 14, and 11 of them were girls, and almost all of them had 2 girls. A few had a boy and a girl. And my cousin, who's 2 years older than me, always say that all these women raised us to be the men they never met. Which is why we have a hard time having relationships, because we're courteous, we're kind, we're loving, we're giving. We what's the word when you're trying to meet someone? That old romantic word. You're a suitor.
Nostalgic, romantic.
Yeah, you're a suitor. You woo them. You
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 woo
buy
them.
a little gift and you do stuff, and it's like people, sadly, who aren't used to that romance in life will think of you, if they're not used to being treated well, as a sucker or a fan, and you're like, no, that's not where it's coming from. So it was.
I think that's amazing. All the women in your family will tell you that is, they're right. That is amazing. Everybody wants that. And how funny you should say this, because there were 300 people at that party that you came to that I gave. I didn't know you. And I still remember there were rubrum lilies in them. It was the biggest bouquet that anyone ever brought me. And I remember thinking, oh my God, what an incredible guy.
You sweetheart, that's so kind.
Yeah, but it's true. You see, you don't realize what these gestures do. It's amazing. Yeah.
And you do it from a place of love. I mean, I was invited and I looked at photographs of you before I came, and I knew where I was going to be before. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go through the 7th Avenue and 20th Street. There's like that wonderful big flower market there. I was like, you want them to be fragrant. You want them to be fragrant for the day after, but you want some of the flowers to be, you want the flowers to be open, but you want some other flowers to open later so there's fragrance so they can have a good memory of it and just have a romantic moment at home for them, you know?
Oh my God, you are
and you were such a girl. You became like 14 years old and right in front of me, like, who are you? What is this? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, just enjoy it and feel happy to celebrate you.
Well, thank you. And that was one of the best memories I had, because 6 weeks later, we were in lockdown.
Yep.
That event was January 24th and March 12th. They shut New York down. And I'm sure you were like, oh my God.
Yes.
We've never dealt with anything like that. We've always been able to, do what we wanted to do. You're a performer. You have an events company. Yeah. There were no events.
There was no events. There were no shows. There were no food to even drop off because most of my clients left the city for their second homes. Right. So there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. My only saving grace is that I live on the Hudson River. So I didn't have an apartment building directly in front of me. So I was able to go and make picnic lunches for myself here in Hudson River Park, as well as just walk the neighborhood because no one was here. I was like the Omega Man. Truly, there was no one here.
There was no one here. So I stayed, okay, because I got COVID 4 days after they shut New York down.
Oh,
and I was like, after that, I thought, all right, you know what? I'm going to get whatever work there is out there. I picked up a lot of modeling work because anyone that was trying to do anything, even though we were shut down, there were still people, believe me, David, and you know this, they were sneaking to do shoots and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
Before they had any of those COVID rules.
Well, I worked we made in June.
Yeah, in
Christmas
June.
Freak, the film that's on Apple TV now, we made that in June in Portland, Oregon, at the height of it all.
Right.
June of 2020 is when we made that film.
And they were finding those loopholes all over the place. I tell people this. I feel the pandemic was a very unequal pandemic because those that could figure out the loopholes were able to continue survival. Whereas other people, actors, Broadway and everything just got hit so bad. And you know what? We're still coming out of it. We're all different people now. And not the same. And I'm sure you're not the same.
Well, the thing for me was I was very fortunate in my mind to put it in the identity. Okay, certainly World War II was a hell of a lot more. But in my life, what I've seen the worst of was Vietnam, which happened away from me, even though I saw the guys that came back from it. It was the first time that I was in the center of something that was a phenomenon that had affected so many people. Right. So as fearful as I was, it also felt like a moment in time historically, even while I was going through it. And I don't know if that's just ongoing optimism, but I was able to calm myself rather than get frightened. I calmed myself down. That was the other thing with the variety show too, because I almost always on Pandora, I had music from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, mostly from the 70s and 80s, where if you remember, the music was about love. It was about finding romance. It was about finding that one forever.
It had lyrics.
About, hitting and quit or snatching some thongs or, got my bitch back up. And when I can't go out and sell my drugs, my woman can. It wasn't that. It was all.
Oh, yeah, I know that song well, David.
Right? It was all about finding that one and really, really appreciating that spark. Now, a lot of people will say that's the Disney romance thing. It's like, but I think it's a better thing to strive for than to be the greatest drug dealer or the the highest paid hooker.
Listen, you're not going to get any argument from me. I'm right there with you, and I love the way your glass is always half filled. Yeah, I know that's what it's about. And you put on those rose-colored glasses, and you get out there, and you love every day. Because I tell you, the one thing I really learned from the pandemic, I'm a control freak like you. I love and live large. I live large and full. But what I learned about the pandemic is anything can change at any time.
On a dime.
And
I grew to really enjoy my own company, though. I was surprised because you're a social person, and so am I. I thought that it might drive me a little nuts because you had no reason to get up. You had no reason to do anything. It's like, well, you got to, run, get on the floor, do some exercises.
You got to create stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, as a social person, I know this is going to sound bizarre, but I used the time to have a social life that completely exploded. Suddenly, I was able to reach out to people on Facebook that I would have never bothered with before because I was on social media, and all of a sudden we got into conversations, and then I went to their live streams, and then I did Zoom shows. And the irony of all this is, at this point, those are the people I'm performing with now.
Yep.
I shot something a few weeks ago that with two of the people were from before the pandemic. It's just the way it is. Listen, this conversation is about, living your best life and getting it out there. Your show, November 16th, do you plan on doing a follow-up show? Like, is this going to be a one shot, or maybe it's
the anniversary show, and I won't do another one until spring, April, because ideally what we were doing was March, April, May, and September, October, November. Okay. So it was 6 times a year. This is the first one we've done since 2019, because 2020 was when everything fell apart. But it'll definitely be this November 16th, and the next one will be in April and May.
Oh,
definitely
cool.
April and May.
All right, well, you of course have to give me a heads up on it.
I most certainly will. And I know we've got a very little time left, but I wanted to say, going back to what you said, the wonderful thing and the wonderful compliment about doing the show is the director who keeps everything together for me, Jerry Geddes. I don't know if you know Jerry.
I don't know him, but
he does a lot of things at Pangea. He has a different night once a month at Pangea. But he has been working with some of the singers and dancers from the show that he met at my show. One singer, Brian, and I hate that I can't think of his name right now, wrote a show with another person that they're trying to raise money for to film. And one dancer and songwriter choreographed a piece together that's now on TikTok. And they hadn't met each other before. And that's what you want. He's like, there's no agency. You don't owe me 10% for being in my, you don't owe me a dime. Just, call me and let me know I can see it. And that's what I want. I'd like to spend the rest of my life doing that, connecting people and having my own show.
That's what I know. That's what you're about. And you have a great smile. Now, I want you to tell everyone what your social media handles are. Go.
David Drumgold at Instagram. On Instagram, it might be D Drumgold, but it's, David Drumgold. Look it up. And on Facebook, I'm David Drumgold. Privately now, I'm David K. Drumgold because my name is unique. But for some reason in New York, there are 2 people with my name.
So you had to put the K in it.
Yeah, I put the K in it.
I was going to ask you the origin of your name before you go. Drumgold. What's the history? 2
different things. It's East Africa, and it is Irish. So I don't know who met who first and spent the night.
I love it.
But those are the 2 origins of the name.
And do you know where in East Africa?
I don't.
Okay.
I was told once that it's Eritrea because there was a lot of Judaism in that part of the world, but I don't really know.
Okay. And I've spent a lot of time in Ethiopia and Eritrea. So, right. So there was a connection, and I'm like, I got to talk to him about his name.
I tell you, once I was in Ibiza one summer, and I had done a performance at the Club Coup, which was privilege.
Oh my God, they used to have the foam parties there.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I was performing, and I came down off the stage, and this guy was from Goa. And he came up to me and goes, "You are a blessed shaman person. Your ancestry is regal. You must respect yourself. You must this, that, and the other." I was like, thank you. But DC, Iowa, you don't know about all that, but I love that you told me that for whatever reason. The universe made you tell me that. I do have a sense of self-pride. Are we done? Well,
I got to
go, but I just want to go over time.
The hurricane is hitting Florida, so we want him to be safe. David, thank you. Thank you, everyone who tuned in tonight. Love you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Good night.
Bye, everyone. And thank you. November 16th at MMAC.
Yes.
West 16th Street. God bless. Be well.
God bless.
Bye, honey.